Hi everyone, I'm Mo Carter. I am the sports director at WZDX Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama.
So Mo Carter,
Yes, sir.
describe yourself in one word.
If I had to describe myself in one word, it would be motivator.
Okay, what makes, or how do you get a chance to wake up in the morning? What motivates you to be the person who you are today?
Well, first and foremost, it all starts with, the Lord, the man up above. Primarily because with him giving us the opportunity to actually do right on another day by his will, I feel like I need to go ahead and do so. He's waking me up each and every day. He's giving me an opportunity to do a lot of things that a lot of folks wouldn't be able to do. Also, he's giving me an opportunity just to live life the way that he wanted everything to set up. So by doing so, that motivates me to live a great life each and every day, not just for myself, but also for, my family, my co-workers, my friends, and anyone else that I can say that I'm close with.
What actually inspires you to be the next role model for the individual that's looking up to you at this time?
Well, primarily it all goes back to the past. And what I mean by that is that there were individuals who were in my footsteps or were in my place to where I was looking at them and drawing encouragement from other folks or whatever, saying, okay, man, look, that's such and such, that's such and such. I want to be like them. I got a chance to talk with those folks, and then they're like, hey, you got some great talents. You have this, you have that. Stick with it. So I did stick with it. And nowadays, I can kind of say that everything has been flipped to the other side, and now a lot of folks are actually looking at me for that standpoint, and I enjoy that. I mean, I feel like I'm a great motivator. I feel like I'm a great person, and if you just sit down and talk to me for 5-10 minutes, you'll find out how great of a guy I am, no matter if it's talking about sports, talking about life, or even talking about history in that sense. I mean, I'm kind of a history buff, so kind of like to throw a little knowledge here and there and help motivate some other folks while also giving them some enlightening details about some things they may not know about me in that sense.
Let's talk about Southern University.
Okay.
What actually gave you the courage to go to an HBCU school, and describe a little bit about Southern University in your own words?
Oh man, the great Southern University. Man, I owe Southern University so much to where I am today. And it's so crazy because I grew up in one of those families where majority of the folks were either Southern University graduates or they were Southern University affiliates, whether it was their spouse or their mom and dad that went to Southern. So I had a chance to actually see Southern up front and personal growing up, especially in the 90s. The football team was always really good with Coach Pete Richardson. There are a lot of guys actually from my area that played football as well. So I kind of knew a lot of those guys growing up, and I'm like, hey, they're doing it, then so be it. Got a chance to travel with the Jaguar Nation growing up, going to different spots. I mean, I still remember when, they were going to Atlanta Football Classic and they were going to other places, and all of a sudden it's like it's a Southern home game on a road trip. But some of the good things they had was not just for athletics, but the tailgating, the camaraderie, all kinds of things that people look forward to each and every week. I had a chance to do that, and whether it was with family members or church members or just people like, hey, is your son free this weekend? Let me go ahead and take him to Baton Rouge with me and take him to the Bluff. But there were some other good things going on with Southern University. One thing I could tell you about was my church affiliation. So they have this thing called Youth Encampment, and what they did was they switched between Southern and Grambling each and every year. It was put on by the Louisiana Baptist Association. My hometown pastor, Louis C. Clark, he was a big proponent with that. And what I mean that is that he sat on the boards. I think he was like one of the regional presidents at one point in time, and he was really big on youth involvement. Well, basically this was a week-long Bible type camp in which you would have people from all kinds of different areas of the state, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Monroe, Shreveport, would all converge either at Grambling or at Southern. Of course, I went to more of the Southern years, with it being closer in the allegiance. But it was real cool because you got a chance to meet with the Southern Gospel Choir, you got a chance to live in the dorms, you got a chance to see what college life could be as an early young teenager. Now, those things all prepared me. Now, later on in life, especially in high school, I got a chance to check out some things. Funny story, I actually did not go to Southern University beginning out in college. I actually attended Nicholls State University, my parents' alma mater. But, God had different plans, and eventually I was actually able to transfer over to Southern University, which was probably one of my better investments slash plans and everything that rolled out in life. And by the time I got to the university, I knew that, hey, God put me here, I need to make some things happen. So by doing so, I mean, you know, being a student athlete was kind of almost even like in the background or whatever. It was more about being a student and just developing my craft, because I knew I wanted to be a successful person in the media industry. Got a chance to cut my teeth by working on SU TV 75, which was real great. Had a chance to do ESPNU Campus Connection. Did BET's Black College Tour, was the host. Had a commercial that was running nationwide my senior year, just talking about when they actually came to the university. By perfecting that craft, that led to a great internship, and next thing you know, I graduated with honors and then landed a great job, and now I am where I am because of Southern University and a lot of great people over there too.
How do you give back to your community? And if someone was actually contemplating and participating in going to a HBCU school, what would you tell them?
All right, well, one thing I have done, no matter where I've been at, has been giving back to aspiring journalists. Currently, right now, with me being here in Huntsville, I actually do a couple of workshops a year at Alabama A&M with their Department of Communications. One of the Professor Dorica Anderson Reeves is actually a Southern University graduate. Crazy story how we ended up meeting. We met in the post office, and I was wearing a Saints shirt. She asked me if I was from Louisiana. I told her I was. She told me where she was from. I told her where I was from. Like, wait a second, that's like right next to each other. And then she told me she went to Southern. She told me who she knew. I told her who I knew. We all knew each other. And it's like, I'm going to use you. Next thing you know, I'm talking to her classes. I'm talking to the entire department, and then I'm making connection. Talking to these young students who want to be like me or even be better than me. And the main thing I'll do is like set interviews up with them, show them how to do correct things, give them that insight from someone who's actually in the field. Professors do a really good job setting it up, but until you get that real world experience from someone, you don't really know what's going on when it all comes to that. So that's one thing I definitely take pride in, is talking to aspiring journalists at local universities. Like I said, right now I'm doing with Alabama A&M. I have spoken to a few high school students from time to time. In the previous times, when I was in Montgomery, I did a lot of things with Alabama State University students. And when I was in Alexandria, Louisiana, I did some things with Louisiana College. But being here in Huntsville, like I said, you know, I talk to the HBCUs for sure with Alabama A&M. Now, aspiring an individual going to HBCU, I'll definitely do that 365 days a year if I need to. Of course, I'll be like, hey, look, you probably need to go to Southern University in that standpoint, but if they don't want to do that, I'll still give them the ins and outs on how it is to actually go to another HBCU. Even though Southern's the only HBCU I attended, I have had a way to, I guess you say, put myself in the path to know how things are on different HBCU campuses. One like being here in Huntsville, so I know a lot about Alabama A&M, I know a lot about Oakwood, and when I was in Montgomery, I knew a lot about Tuskegee, and I knew a lot about stuff about Alabama State, so I know kind of the ins and outs of those things. The other things I just always love to tell, inspire people who are considering HBCUs, is just know this: you will get a wealth of knowledge and you'll get a experience like no other, because that's how I feel what it is when you go to an historically black college and university.
Who has the better classic between the Magic City Classic and the Bayou Classic, in your opinion?
Oh man, it's a hard one, believe it or not. It's really hard. And I'll say that because I played in the Bayou Classic as a Southern University football player, but I've covered a lot of Magic City Classics here in Alabama, both covering Alabama State and Alabama A&M. I mean, traditions both go back way back down through the lines. I mean, you know, you got the old school Bulldogs and the old school Hornets who are still, you know, bitter at each other. Same thing with the old school Jaguars and the old school Tigers, who will go back and forth. One thing I will say this, I will say on a year-to-year basis, it seems like people will just show up for the Magic City Classic, whether it's two teams that's 1-10 or two teams that don't have great records or two teams that have actually pretty decent records. I mean, I've had a chance to see it over the last couple of years, but yeah, you know, you'll have the 60, almost 70,000 inside of Legion Field. There's like another 50,000 on the outside and outskirts of Legion Field. So that's one thing I did notice that Magic City Classic may have the advantage of over, but then when you have the Bayou Classic, like, it's just Southern and Grambling. They have the national exposure, being on NBC for all those years. Now they're on NBC Sports. And of course, it's New Orleans. It's the city that basically never sleeps. And people playing their Thanksgiving around the Bayou Classic. I mean, the impact that that classic has upon the city and the state of Louisiana is like no other. I mean, the amount of money that's brought in through the Tourism Bureau is just crazy. And then I say this, like, there's nowhere that you can't go that people aren't talking about that game. I mean, it's one of those things where I can't really say I can put one on top of the other, so I have to kind of more say it as a 1A and a 1B in that standpoint. Like, I worked the one, so I can see it as 1A, 1B for one that standpoint, but playing in another one and attending it as a regular person, you have to put that 1A, 1B. But I will say this though, there are definitely two of the top classics in the entire nation, and I'm glad to say that they're both in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Let's say young Mo Carter is watching this right now.
Okay.
And he's actually sitting on his laptop and he's trying to look at and say, you know what? I wonder, I want trying to be just like my big brother Mo Carter.
Okay.
What type of message would you tell the young Mo Carter that's actually watching this, your younger self?
All right, if I could, let's see, for sure, if I were to tell my younger self a special message, I would tell him, you're destined for great things. However, it will not come easy. Being a young man who was very intelligent, worked hard, studied hard, did a lot of things. I'm not saying it came easy, but a lot of things came natural, especially through high school, early parts of college. But once you got into that adulthood, I got smacked in the face here, left, right, or whatever, because I wasn't expecting certain things. So I would tell my younger self, be prepared for that. You're gonna go through some downfalls. You're gonna go through this. You may lose a job here, you may lose a job there, and it's not even your fault. But at the same time, stay prayed up, stay motivated, stay encouraged, because greater things are coming in the future. Very, very, very big in religion growing up, you know, especially old school Black Baptist church or whatever. Stay true to that, because those connections with the Lord and those connections with people will motivate you as well to become a better person, become a greater person, and also just move on to bigger, better, and greater things. So the hard work will pay off. However, I will say that it won't come easy. It really, really won't. But don't give up. Do not give up at all. Like my man Jim Valvano said all the way back in those years when he had his SB speech before he passed away. Yeah, don't give up. Don't ever give up, because greater things are coming up. I mean, you know, even from the biblical proportion, you talk about, you know, praises go up, the blessings come down. I can say that I'm a true testament to that situation, no matter if it's personal, workforce, or just in everyday life. I feel like I've been blessed because I stayed true to what it was, and I definitely stayed prayed up, and I was encouraged through all those tough times.
How do you feel in today's society that there may be 10 to 15% of African American men that actually are sports journalists? Is there a shortage of that, or what do we need to do to try to enhance that so we can see a little bit more to actually try to tell our story?
Well, one thing I'll say from that is, to say the fact that it's only 10 to 15%, you kind of frown on it upon that standpoint, but I'll also say this, out of those 10 to 15%, that means in that number, you got some great guys. So from that number, those great guys have to find a way to talk to the next generation, so that not only can they be replaced by better individuals, African American men in that standpoint, but also they can deliver the message to those young men, and then those young men can go ahead and continue to make the cycle as well. One thing that someone told me a long, long time ago, ESPN Stan Verrett, I've been knowing him for several years by way of his cousin James Verrett, who's been a big mentor of mine all the way back. One thing those guys always told me was, hey, don't be like me, be better than me. Of course, that's still some big shoes to fill from those standpoints of those guys. I mean, you know, Stan's on the West Coast with ESPN LA. James is doing a lot of things. You'll see him do play-by-play for a lot of HBCU games, especially during the fall. And he's also a former sideline reporter for the Atlanta Hawks. But that's one thing that's always stuck to me. Don't be like me, be better than me. So I live by those words, and I try to perfect my craft. But at the same time, that's why I try to encourage other young men, especially African American men who want to follow into my footsteps, and let them know, hey, here's what you're going to need to do. Here's what's going to need to happen. You may be discouraged in certain points because you may not get this job. You may not get this chance. But once you get that chance, you make the most out of it. Like, it's a cruel world in the journalism industry. It really, really is. Not just for for African American men, it's a cruel world for Caucasian men, Caucasian women, African American women, I mean, even the Asian population, the Latino population. It's one of those things where it's like, they're going to take the best of the best. So because they're going to take the best of the best, you have to find a way to be better than the best of the best. So that would be a message I would have to the African American men who are trying to be like me or be better than me, especially in this field.
Name some insurmountable situations what you had to overcome, maybe discrimination, maybe several challenges, maybe that you're up for a promotion and it'll be a great job for you, but evidently you just didn't get that. So describe that for us.
I mean, there are so many things that I can go ahead and say that I've been blessed to be in those certain situations. I've been able to actually go over the mountaintop after going through the valley and things of that nature. But I mean, I can even go back to my teenage years, back when basically I was kind of sought as the token black kid. And it wasn't even so much that, like, my parents just put me in a lot of activities so I could not be shy. Believe it or not, like, I was actually a really, really shy kid growing up. I know, it's very, very crazy to think about that. But yeah, I was actually a really, really shy kid, but my parents saw the potential. My grandparents saw the potential. So they started putting me in a lot of activities besides athletics. Next thing you know, I'm in student council, I'm in 4-H, I'm in TSA. You know, those are some of the clubs that I stuck with throughout the years. I mean, I will say this too, I give 4-H a lot of credit for the guy that I am right now, especially from the public speaking aspect. A lot of people think about 4-H for the agriculture and the livestock or whatever. Yeah, I saw all that, but I didn't really participate with all that because they had other things. I actually did a lot of health and nutrition things. I also did the public speaking ventures. They have their state conventions and you're able to go from your state convention once you hit like 13 or 7th grade. I was able to do that. I participated in public speaking things. I participated in demonstrations, which I had to do more public speaking. And next thing you know, in like the 6 years I attended state, I think I walked away with like 4 state championships during that standpoint. But like I said, remember, this was the token black kid in that standpoint. And it was funny that I actually started encouraging other guys and one of my friends to be like, hey man, y'all need to come check out 4-H. Seriously, y'all need to come check out this because like it's really, really gratifying. And one of those championships allowed me to win a spot at the national convention. So I had a chance to go to the national convention, which was in Atlanta. Had a chance to talk to delegates from all kind of different states, different countries as well. We had Germany delegates, we had Canadian delegates, had people from Puerto Rico. I mean, these were people I never ever thought I'd ever even sit down and talk about. But those are one of those things where I just said to myself, man, this is definitely a blessing, being that token black kid, but also getting those opportunities. Another thing I also had, of course, you know, as an African American man, you're going to face discrimination one way or another. I mean, I could go into this story and that story, but I'm not going to go into that standpoint. I'll just say that I chalked it up. I chalked it up for one. Another thing I did was I just brushed it off a little bit and then I prayed about it. I spoke to my parents, I spoke to my mentors, and I got motivation for them. And also, you know, you'll get that, don't worry, it wasn't meant to be. If it was for you, don't worry about it. God's gonna open up another door. And I had those certain situations. There have been a few jobs which I thought I had, and then it just didn't go my way. A couple of years ago, I actually was working at another job. Things seemed to be going good, and then the company decided they wanted to go in a different direction. Was I hurt about that? Yes, I was hurt because I was making really good money. I just got married and everything was looking great, but some things just didn't work out in that standpoint. I kind of did a few little odd jobs here and there, but then the Lord was able to bless me with my current situation. And the biggest person through that situation that helped me out was my wife, because she was like, hey, we're gonna get this. This is Team Carter, and I'm gonna support you through this from the beginning to the end. So even though I've gone through some hardships and trials and tribulations, I feel that I've been able to overcome those situations. If I have to go through some more or whatever, I'm just gonna handle it the same way, by just being motivated, staying prayed up, and then asking others to pray for me as well.
Next question, how do you describe the Men of Excellence, since you are being nominated for that, Mr. Mo Carter?
All right, Men of Excellence. When I look at the Men of Excellence, the only thing I can think about are guys who are true motivators, gentlemen who are big in their communities, and also individuals who love to inspire the next generation. To be to be not selected, but to be nominated for a Men of Excellence Award, I think is just very, very gratifying, because the fact that somebody actually thought of me in that standpoint, they see what I do beyond what my regular job is, as far as helping others in the community. You know, I'm doing a lot of things, of course, doing the trying to help kids get internships, also trying to just help aspiring journalists do a lot of great things. I'm also trying to like help out when it comes to like church groups and activities. My wife and I just recently joined a church, so now we're trying to get involved with that and do a lot of other good things. So that's something I've done my whole entire life. So you kind of look at it like this, you know, like in the church, you know, you have your pastor, you have the deacons and all those other whatever, and then people look up to them. That's kind of like how I feel with Men of Excellence is. Like you kind of put on that plateau because people look up to you and people expect you to help out with this need or that need, or even just a sit down, just a talk. Sometimes people just need a good talking to, and it'll get them through the day. You don't know what anyone's going through if you don't talk to them, or if they don't open up and talk to you. So if anyone wants to do that with me, I'm totally fine with that. But also thinking about Men of Excellence, I also think about individuals who can provide a positive light and aspect to a lot of dark times that we go through right now in that standpoint. Lots of times people just talk to me, and then they'll talk to me beyond sports. They'll just ask me my opinions about certain things. Yes, I'm very opinionated, but I do kind of keep certain things to myself. But if you know how to talk to me right, then we start getting into the groove of some things, and they're like, man, you know way more than what it is with just sports. So to be nominated, I feel great about that standpoint. And also, hey, if I'm selected, I'll represent the best way I can.
If we did a movie or a book about you, what would the title of that movie or the book be, and who would be the main characters?
All right, if we did a movie or a book, considering the fact I'm in the media industry, we probably got to do a movie. We got to do a movie or a short film in that standpoint, or maybe we do a short film, it goes to the Sundance, and then it comes to theaters a little bit later on. I probably would call a small town guy, big time dreams. Primarily because I grew up in a small town of Napoleonville, Louisiana, which is in Assumption Parish, South Louisiana, about an hour south of Baton Rouge, hour and a half west of New Orleans. When I try to describe where I'm actually from, of course, some people are like, oh, where that's at, where that's at, where that's at. You know how that could be sometimes. And if they don't know where New Orleans or Baton Rouge is as far as proximity, I'll tell them, look, whenever hurricanes come around, we're the ones that have to usually evacuate on the second level of it. They're like, oh, you're that deep down south. So, but going back to the small town, big time dreams, I mean, I'm actually doing what I actually always wanted to do. Like I wanted to be a sports anchor probably since I've been in middle school. Once somebody said, hey, I think that'd be pretty cool for you to actually do that. I did a little job shadowing and eventually did the internship. So small town guy, big time dreams. Now, if I were to pick anyone to star in that movie, I would actually say, and this is probably gonna throw a curveball at you, the guy that would actually star as me would actually be the late Lee Thompson Young. For anyone that doesn't know who Lee Thompson Young is, he was the guy that was the main character in the Disney show, The Famous Jet Jackson. That was one of my favorite shows growing up, especially on the Disney Channel, because me and Lee were about the same age range, but it was also enlightening as a teenage African-American man, and especially in the late 90s, to see a guy on Disney Channel at that with his own show. And then of course, if anyone knows about that show, you know, it was like a show within a show, because it was him living as a regular guy, but then of course he was a superstar on the TV show, but he was trying to have a regular life in that standpoint. I'm not saying I'm anywhere close to that standpoint, but I will say this. Sometimes I do find it hard to actually separate my TV job life from my personal life to certain extents. So I can kind of feel where he's coming through at that point in time, because scheduling can always get crazy. You're always going to work odd hours. You're always going to have things that intertwine and interlock and intermix. You're like, oh man, I have to cancel this or do that or make this happen. So yeah, I would say the late Lee Thompson Young would probably definitely play my main character in that one. You know, unfortunately, he did pass away a couple of years ago. After being diagnosed with bipolar disease. They wish they would have caught it a little bit earlier, but I will tell you this, that was one of my favorite Disney shows. And of course, I got a chance to check him out doing various other things. Remember, he was the older brother in Akeelah and the Bee. A lot of people don't remember that standpoint. He was also in Rizzoli and Isles as well. So yeah, he would definitely be the main character. I mean, there's so many other people I can think about that could probably either be that could be my, be my parents and be my grandmother and all that. Say, I guess I threw out there. Let's go with Steve Harvey as my dad. Because my dad, he likes to wear the 4, 5, 6 button suits. So I'd probably say Steve Harvey as my dad. As my mom, it could be a plethora of folks in that standpoint. Let me go with Garcelle Beauvais, Fancy, from the Jamie Foxx show for right now, probably as my mom. And God, I can't even think about all kind of other folks who could actually be that man. But yeah, that's probably what it is. But yeah, Small Time Guy, Big Time Dreams would definitely be the name of my short film or movie about myself.
Let's fast forward 5 to 10 years. How do you see Mo Carter in the next 5 to 10 years into the digital format for yourself?
Into the digital format, hopefully the Lord is able to still bless me with a pretty good job in the media industry, whether it's a sports anchor or a sports analyst, maybe on the national level. I'm hoping he'll provide me with one of those things. If he doesn't, I'm just praying that he just provides me with something that's just consistent. Something that allows me to continue to help out my community and help out my peers, continue to do what I'm also doing in that standpoint. I'm also hoping that, who knows, maybe I can bust into radio or play-by-play or any of those other nations I've actually had a past endeavor with. Maybe they'll provide it in the future. From a personal standpoint, I'll say that 5 to 10 years, let's see, 5 years, I'll be celebrating my 9th wedding anniversary. So that means me and my wife will be together for a decade being married. So that'll be a great thing to take a look at. Hopefully we'll have a couple kids by then. And then all of a sudden, I guess I'm raising the next version of Mo Carters in the world. But 5 to 10 years, I'm just hoping just to be blessed and be in good health, and also just to be kind of the same person I am, but a little bit older, but yet a little bit wiser. And hopefully more people to kind of be on my team as I try to build my craft in no matter what I'm doing.
Last words of wisdom from the Mo Carter. What are your last words of wisdom that you can tell us?
All right, my last words of wisdom will be what I would say is my phrase that I motivate myself with each and every day. Not saying you need to go and copy this, but you might want to hear me out. The main phrase I have, you actually find this on my Twitter as well. I'm a young man working hard today for a better tomorrow. My grandfather told me that many years ago, maybe about 25 years ago, give or take. He told me about that. He was the pastor of a church, and I was his oldest grandchild, so he told me about that. And that's one thing that stuck with me through the years. And it wasn't probably until my teenage years that I realized that, oh man, today was bad, today was rough, today was this. But then I'm able to still go home, have loving parents, have a loving family, still be in good health, and know that, okay, I'm gonna be a star student, star athlete, and then the next day I can turn around and just wipe the slate and start all over once again. So thus that is working hard today for a better tomorrow. And who knows, the next day might be a great day. So if Wednesday was a great day, you can even make Thursday even a better day. And then come Friday, it's the greatest day because you're going into the weekend as well. So those are the words of motivation I would provide to anyone listening to me in that standpoint. I've always lived by the creed of working hard today for a better tomorrow, because you're going to have hard days. But the thing is that at the end of the day, if you're still living life, especially praising God as well, He's going to provide you with a better situation, better opportunities, and also open doors which could come tomorrow.
Who is the most influential individual in your life at this time, Mo?
All right, I've got to tell you, it's definitely 2 people. Can't just name just one. The first person is my father, the guy who had my namesake for. I'm actually Morrell Carter Jr., that's my entire name, and my dad's Morrell Joseph Carter Sr. Growing up, he was my biggest motivator. He was the person that introduced me to sports. He tried to have me play baseball, actually tried to have me play t-ball. I didn't like that. So we moved over to football, and of course, he was my football coach, Pee Wee. He was an assistant coach through middle school as well. And then I tell people this, and they laugh about it nowadays. I would actually call him during halftime of my high school game, just be like, hey, what are you seeing from other folks from the stands? He'd actually talk to me for 2 minutes and kind of tell me those things. So that's from the athletic standpoint, but just from the overall standpoint, he's been my biggest motivator. He's like a guy I've always looked up to. He was, I'm not gonna say he was one of those pillar in the community type guys, but he was one of those individuals that everybody knew who Big Mo was. And it kind of throws people off sometimes when like they may see something from me television wise back home and then they'll see Mo Carter and they have to take a second to be like, oh wait, it's Lil Mo, not Big Mo in this standpoint. But no, my dad did a lot. I mean, he made a lot of sacrifices for our entire family. I remember him working 2 jobs for like the longest time just to make sure that me, my little sister, and my mother were always in a good situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking nothing away from my mom as well. She was a school teacher for 35 years and she touched a lot of lives as well. But man, my dad, he definitely made some things happen. In his later years, became a school bus driver, and like I still get people nowadays tell, oh man, I used to ride your dad's bus. It was like the coolest thing ever. We listen to great music, we listen to this, we go on field trips, and he was always so cool or whatever. But one thing I can say I feel good about is that when I go back home or people hit me up through social media, they'll be like, hey, I spoke to your dad today, and he could not stop talking about the good things that you were doing and how proud he is. So I feel great that I'm actually able to make him proud because he did a lot of things for our family growing up. Like I said, that's just within our household. 2 of my youngest uncles and my youngest aunt on my mom's side, he kind of served as like a father figure for them as well because their dad actually passed away when they were really, really young. Maybe my mom and dad might have been married for about 3 or 4 years, and then their dad had passed away. So like my dad actually kind of stepped in as that father figure for them, and they give a whole lot of appreciation to them or whatever. Of course, you hear them say, "Hey, brother-in-law, how's it going, Mo?" or whatever. But like it does mean a lot to them because like they were doing a lot of things. Matter of fact, my dad actually walked my auntie down the aisle whenever she was getting married. And that was something she said that she had no regrets about ever asking him on that because she knew for sure like he made a good impact from that standpoint. So I saw that as a young man, like very, very young man. So him doing that and then he doing what he did for me, my mom, my little sister, even my grandmother who lived with us, and even on his side of the family. I mean, everybody loves Uncle Mo or Brother Mo in that standpoint. So yeah, he's definitely been a big motivator. The other big person in my life is my wife, Lakeisha Carter, formerly Lakeisha Adams. I've known Lakeisha since we were in college. We didn't date in college, but we know each other through college. That's why I give Southern University so many props because had I not gone to Southern University, I might have never met my wife in that standpoint. And we met through work, and several years later after I graduated, she was still in school. That's when we actually reconnected by way of a mutual friend. And the next thing you know, we're dating. We get engaged, we get married, and now we just celebrated our 3rd year anniversary back in November. But the coolest thing about her is that she's definitely my best friend. She has been there since the beginning. You talk about people saying how I started from the bottom, now we're here. Yeah, we started at the bottom. Like she remembers me as a photog and sports producer at a little small TV station, and then encouraged me to take another job here and then take another job here. And then once I lost a job, she encouraged me to say, hey, this is going to happen and we're going to make it happen no matter what it is. She's been by my side day and night. From time to time, you see her at a couple of games here and there, and she's picked up a few things. She knows how to edit. She knows how to stack a show if she ever needed to help me out of that standpoint. She knows how to write shot sheets. But the coolest thing is that she's definitely not only my best friend, I love her to death, and she motivates me as well. That's why I got to say she's another huge part of my life. If I didn't have her, I don't know what I would do.
What are your keys to success?
Oh man, keys to success. I mean, there's so many keys. One key for sure is to be adaptable. By saying that, especially in this business, you could move a lot. I mean, I'm on my 4th job now, almost in a 10-year career span. And I worked in Baton Rouge, I worked in Alexandria, Louisiana, I worked in Montgomery, Alabama, and now I'm here in Huntsville, Alabama. I've had to be adaptable to those different surroundings, different places. Going from Baton Rouge to Alexandria was crazy because, you went from the state capital to very, very small town. But at the same time, I adapted to my surroundings, adapted to my area. Then going from there to going to Montgomery, I mean, that was a whole nother change. So coming from Montgomery to here, that's, through that time, I've had to adapt, not only to some of our surroundings, but also finding out what's going on. What are some of the big things, what are things to do, for instance? Finding a church home, finding new friends, or just gearing up for what could be, even from weather. I mean, growing up in Louisiana, I was used to preparing for hurricanes. Here in Alabama, I'm kind of used to now severe weather and tornadoes if that comes to that stand. But what do those things come through? It comes to being adaptable. And also, here's another thing. through athletics, you hear about being coachable. That actually happens in a workplace too. Because one thing that whenever somebody's has you up for a job, they're gonna call your references and they're gonna ask. They may not ask, are they coachable? But they're gonna ask, what kind of employee are they? Do they get along well with others? Do they work well with others? How is their work ethic? Can they take a leader? Like, people take all those notes down in the perspective of trying to hire folks. And when that happens, it shows you that people pay attention to you more than what you may think. So being coachable or also being a good employee are definitely some things you need to think about when it comes to the workforce in that standpoint. I mean, I just happened to hire a new sports person in my department recently, and I had to call their former news director, ask them about that, and those were some of the things I got. And I think we ended up landing a really, really good person, primarily because of those things that I said, like apparently she works well with others, she's very, very, very adaptive to the situation and the surroundings so far. I mean, she's already making her connections, making her contacts, and I think she's still trying to get used to just being here, but of course that comes with time. So you look at those things, and I think that kind of can go for any and everybody, depending on no matter what the situation is.